Hello everyone, I'm Nunzio, founder and CEO of Bizon, an online marketplace where people can buy, sell, and grow businesses or franchises every day. And this is Biz Chats. I get to talk with professionals, business leaders, and business owners from around the world on a variety of topics. And today I'm really excited to be chatting with Sebastian from Startup Chile. I'm going to wait for him to listen in on live here, and then I'll send him a quick invite, and we'll get started. Today we're going to be talking about how entrepreneurs can get started in Latin American countries. So I'm just going to wait for Sebastian to view live. I'll send him a quick invite, and then we'll get started. And once again, if you have any questions throughout the segment, fire away. We'll try and get those answered throughout the segment.
Hey.
Here we go. Hey, Sebastian.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Great. Well, thanks for deciding to jump on a quick Biz Chats. Really excited for you to be here. I think the topic is absolutely necessary. But I think out the gate, why don't you explain, your role and what you do and a little bit more about Startup Chile?
Sure. Well, I'm Sebastian Diaz. I'm the executive director of Startup Chile. Startup Chile is the biggest accelerator for startups that we have in Latin America, and it's one of the biggest in the world, basically. We are between the 10 biggest accelerators worldwide in terms of startups that we accelerate and the amount of money that we're putting on startups. So it is a pretty big deal down here. Basically, this public policy, because we are coming from the Chilean government, this is a public accelerator. And this started back in 2010, and what we were looking for, it was to change the entrepreneurial mindset that we have down here in Chile. That was the first goal of Startup Chile, and also to put Chile on the map in terms of innovation and entrepreneurship. If you see Chile on the map, you will see that it's almost falling off the continent, super skinny country at the end of the world, super hard to access, it's at least 10 hours flight to any developed country, So every time that we ask to an entrepreneur that we have down here, a Chilean entrepreneur, that they should sell the product or service that they have in Europe or the US or, I don't know, in other market, we always got the same answer. That only happens in movies. There is no way that me as a Chilean can sell my service, product, or scale to other countries, So we find out that it was a cultural problem in our entrepreneurs, when they were looking to scale into other markets. And why it was important for us to push them to scale to other markets, basically because our economy depends on the copper industry. Chile is the biggest copper producer in the world, but every time that the copper industry goes down, we have a huge economical crisis. And who pays for that? SMEs, basically, and startups,
For sure.
Big corporation, they make a couple of adjustments, and they can survive and whatever. But the startups, SMEs, and all those small and medium businesses are the ones that are having a hard time just to adapt those economical crises. So there's the public perspective. All the money that the Chilean state was putting on entrepreneurs was wasted because they were not selling in other markets, and every time that we have that economical crisis, they were bankrupt, basically. So the Chilean state created Startup Chile to bring startups from all over the world. That was the first stage, to mix them with the Chilean and to prove the Chilean that it was possible to create global businesses from Chile. So we were looking for those role models, So let me put it this way, Messi? Yeah. The football player.
Of course.
So Messi is sending a super powerful message to all the Argentinian kids. Doesn't matter how small you are, how skinny you are. If you really push it, you can be the best football player in the world. The same happened with the startups. Doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter where you are. If you really want to scale globally, you can make that happen. So we were trying to prove that to the Chileans. That was the first stage. Once that we changed the culture, and we start measuring that in the numbers in our portfolio. Basically, at the beginning, there were no Chilean in Startup Chile, not because we wanted to. It was because they were not able to compete with foreigners' ideas, more sophisticated ideas. Now, organically, 40% of the startups that are applying and getting accepted into the Startup Chile are Chileans. So
Nice.
that is telling you that the entrepreneurial capability to think globally is increasing year by year. So once that we reach those goals, we transform ourselves into an accelerator to add value to our local economy. So now we accelerate startups using the Chilean market in order to use it as a platform to scale globally. That was kind of the long story short.
No, and I love it because I'm listening to all this amazing information and insight, and the one thing that's jumping out is you're really helping to build confidence. And as
That's
an
right.
entrepreneur, that is so critical because, honest to God, for me, the difference between a mediocre entrepreneur and a great entrepreneur is execution. So if you're going to help
Definitely.
with these local entrepreneurs with confidence, they're going to be confident in executing with speed. So kudos to you. Great initiative. Great summary of what you're doing in Chile. But for Biz Chats, I have about 10 questions. I'm going to fire them
Sure.
off. First one is, so you stated there's an increase of entrepreneurs choosing to incubate in Latin America for various reasons. Now, how do you explain this attraction from your angle?
There's a couple of things that are happening right now. The first thing is that in Latin America, especially in Latin America, all the governments, all the countries, or not to say all, but most of the countries understood that innovation entrepreneurship is going to be one of the pillars to be a developed country, you know. So a lot of countries now are giving free grants or free programs for entrepreneurs. So there is a huge offer for entrepreneurs globally to come to Latin America. So that's the first thing. When we talk about markets, you can see that the Latin American market is growing, and there is a huge opportunity for startups, especially technological startups, because regulations. We don't have many regulations for tech industries. So we have a huge opportunity here to test and pilot products to then scale to more developed countries, but also to be part of the change, you know. So if you start with a product, for example, in Chile, let's say in the fintech industry, because we right now are in the middle of the discussion, how should we make regulation for the fintech industry, you know. So if you're a fintech and you're in Chile right now, you're in a perfect moment to model that regulation thanks to your solution, you know. So you're not going to need right now to how can I say this, to mold your startup or your business model to our regulation, but you can be part of that regulation, you know. So that's a huge opportunity for businesses.
It's a very proactive approach.
Exactly, more proactive approach. So the regulation can fit exactly your business model, and that's what is happening right now in Latin America. Also, there's a couple of success cases that are growing from Latin America, and that's bringing the attention of a lot of VCs. You know that the Latin American ecosystem has a lot of actors. The governments are very active, the public sector in general, but the private sector is not that active. And when I'm talking about private sector, I'm talking about basically investors. That's why the governments are closing these gaps in the market basically with these kind of programs. So, but there is a couple of success cases that are putting a lot of attention of the VCs from developed countries, especially from the US, because, you know, we are super close to look what is happening in these markets. So a lot of VC funds are coming to Latin America, and especially to Chile. They are looking to our portfolio in Startup Chile, to portfolio of other accelerators and incubators. So I would say that the biggest attraction that Latin America has right now is due to regulation. You can pilot and test really fast. You can be part of the change, so the regulation can fit exactly your business model. And there is a huge opportunity in terms of raising money, because venture capitals are looking all the startups that we have down here, since we have those couple of success cases and they didn't fund it, they now want to pay more attention in what is happening down here.
Now, I guess my next question, it kind of goes with the ending of that answer. What are the best funding options in Latin America? What are you seeing a lot of as far as the funding structures and whatnot?
As I was telling you before, the public sector in Latin America in general is very strong. because the private sector is still trying to see how they can tackle these kind of problems. So in the specific case of Chile, the government or the Chilean state is boosting startups because the private market cannot do it. So if they see that failure in the market, the Chilean state has the obligation to cover that failure until the private sector can take over.
So it's a lot of
So
government funding.
it's a lot of government funding, a lot of government support, and
Grants, yeah.
the good thing about that is that most of them are equity free. So if you're a startup, they're not going to take any participation of your company. So that's a good thing. But the bad thing is that the public funds are super limited, and they are not very big if you compare with a ticket in the US, for example. So a seed funding for us, for example, goes from $80,000 to $2,000, for example. I mean,
And I'm
$200,000.
and I'm assuming it's highly competitive as well, right?
In which terms? What do you mean by
As
highly
far as
competitive?
as far as competing for the government funding, I'm sure the government has some sort of cap that they'll give
Yeah,
out per year, right?
yeah, definitely. So we have, for example, the entire entrepreneurship strategy in Chile probably support like 1,000 startups a year.
Okay. Okay.
So it's very competitive, and we have like
Yeah.
7,000 applications.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's very
Now.
competitive, but more
Yeah.
venture funds, are looking what we're doing down here. Family offices, we have super strong family offices in Chile. They are looking to work with the startups right now. They're putting some money. They're trying to understand how to work with the startup portfolio rather just keeping investing in traditional industries. So yeah, just to answer your question straightforward, public sector is very strong. Most of the funding comes from the public sector, but there is a huge opportunity with the private sector, and it's a thing that is growing every year.
That's exciting. Now, as a North American entrepreneur, is cultural difference a big risk when doing business in Latin America? Like, how similar is the culture in Latin America, say, versus North America?
Well, it's quite different. Let me put you a super concrete example. When you, for example, in the US, you said that you have a meeting at 9, it's a start at 9, and you have to be 10 minutes before the meeting starts in order just to start at 9 here in Chile. In the other case, if you said at 9, it probably will start at 9:30, you know so if you
So
do.
for example, today's biz chats.
Exactly. That's the way how it works. So that's just cultural. That's how it works, and you need to try to understand to adapt in order to be success rather than try to change it. Another very important thing is every time that when you're in the middle of a negotiation, everything will be willing to give you a meeting or something like that in order to sell your product, and they're gonna end up the meeting saying, for example, yes, I'll call you to follow up this or whatever. That call is never gonna happen, or I don't
Interesting.
know. Yeah, you need to be really pushy in order to make things happen down here in Latin America.
Now,
Also,
how about a language? How about language? Is language a barrier? Like, what's the impact on an entrepreneur's ability, to do business in Latin America? Like, do a lot of people speak English, or?
if we're talking in Latin America, probably I would say that if you learn Spanish, that's going to be definitely a major success for your business
Of
and how you're
course.
adapting culturally. Um, but when we talk about startups and the tech industry, everything is in English. So it's kind of a
Exactly.
mixed thing. Just to give you a quick example, here in Startup Chile, 90% of what we do is in English. We
Got
talk in
it.
English all the time. It's just because we're supporting global businesses, and English is the global language.
Sure.
Period. But if you want to tackle on a specific problem in a local community or on a specific problem in a country in Latin America, probably language is going to be a barrier, and you're going to need to learn Spanish or just to create a local team. When we have people from different countries coming here and they want to try to do businesses and they don't have the time, or they are having a hard time trying to learn Spanish, we push them to hire people, local people, in order to make businesses here. The screen is
Okay,
freeze. Ah, I see you now.
am I back? There we go.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think you chatted about it at the beginning of our chat, but I just wanted to get some more concrete numbers as far as how many accelerators and incubators and specialized workshops are in the ecosystem for entrepreneurs in Chile.
In Chile, well, you have many organizations that are supporting startups, incubator accelerators. There are many accelerators backed by the biggest universities here. So if I can give you a number being super fair with the ecosystem, there's probably 30
30, okay.
accelerators and
And
incubators. There are probably a couple more if we can put there the program that support entrepreneurs, but are not as specific incubators or accelerators.
got it. And how is it? What's the strength of the network and the networking ability in Chile? Is it strong?
Well, the ecosystem is very strong. Every time that I travel to another country, I keep convincing myself that Chile is one of the few countries where I can see this level of cooperation between industries and institutions. This is not like a competition, so you can see how different accelerators, incubators are working together to boost startups. Big corporations from the same industry are doing the same. They are tackling the same problems, and they're looking to start up together. Something that is really hard to find out in other countries. So it's a tight ecosystem, but we're still missing some pieces.
Yeah. And I could
But
I could speak on that as well because I work closely with Startup Canada as well, and they're tackling the same I guess goal as far as making sure that we could have conversations with industry and government and startups all together at
yeah,
that grassroots level. So
definitely. I know Startup Canada closely, and I think that we are tackling similar problems.
absolutely.
And the organization and how we build ecosystem is very similar.
Got it. Okay, now more specifically for Startup Chile, at what stage do you guys or should an entrepreneur submit their business idea to you? What stage are you looking at?
So we are in an early stage. We have three programs for that. The first program is called the S Factory, the Startup Factory, and that program can apply if you have an idea in a piece of napkins, basically, and no more than 1 year of developing, right?
Got it.
And in that program, at least one of the founders needs to be a woman. Why is
Got it.
that? Because we need more women in tech. We need to put more diversity into our ecosystem, and women's participation in tech is a global problem, and it's scientifically proved that startups led by females sells more and survive more time. So, from the public perspective, if we want to have a bigger impact in our economy, we need more women leading startups. So we have that program specifically for them. They can apply from a stage idea, from a concept stage, and no more than 1 year of developing. Then we have the seed program, and that goes from a prototype, validate prototype, and up to 3 years of developing. And you can apply with any industry, if you have sales or not, but you have to be tech based, have a strong strategy to scale from Chile, and to not have more than 3 years of developing, and at least a validated prototype. And our third program it's called Huella. It's the same as SEED. It goes from a validate prototype, but that program it's specifically for a startup developing solutions for the social industry and the environmental industry.
That's awesome. You have all your angles covered.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I
No,
think we,
that's
we
awesome.
still need to cover more angles, but yeah, it's a pretty diverse offer for startups.
Nice. Okay, now how do you assist, these entrepreneurs with their business ideas? For example, let's focus on that first program you have.
Yes,
How do you
Factory.
yeah, how do you assist those entrepreneurs?
So the S Factory, since they have an idea, we call it a pre-acceleration program, and we try to work with the entrepreneurial abilities. So we teach them basically how to be an entrepreneur, and we help them to get into the
Oh, we lost you there, Sebastian. You're back now.
Where do you lost me?
At the very beginning.
Okay, so basically I was telling you that the S Factory is a pre-acceleration program, and since they're applying with only an idea, we basically put a lot of focus on entrepreneurial skills. We teach them basically how to be an entrepreneur, how to find problems, and we help them to create that first prototype, and we help them to validate that first prototype in order to keep growing with other programs or maybe raise private funds or whatever.
And in that, maybe you could provide a number for each program, but for that first program, what's the average raise?
Raise in terms of private capital?
Yeah, yeah.
It is diverse. I can tell you that the number is very low since the national ecosystem and the Latin American ecosystem won't fund you in a very low or low stage. They are looking for a startup that are growing in sales. But if I can give you just a number of my entire portfolio, they have been managed to raise almost $1 billion after they went through the program. And that's the three programs that I told you. But after the first program, the one that the S Factory program, so after they create the prototype, they manage to apply to other public funds, basically to keep validating their prototypes and just to get the first sales.
Perfect. Okay, now, should an entrepreneur worry, and this is my second last question here, should an entrepreneur worry about obtaining a visa if they wanted to explore Startup Chile?
If they should be worried, that's what you ask?
Yeah, yes.
Basically, we help them with everything. So if we have an application process open, they should go to our webpage. Actually, we have seed program application process open right now. So I'm inviting to all the entrepreneurs around the world with a validated prototype to apply to our program. They can just go to startupchile.org. We have an online application form. They should fill it there, submit it, and they are applying. So if they get accepted, we help them to get the visas as fast as we can. So they will land in Chile with a working visa.
Perfect. Now, my last question and very important question is, how successful are the startups in your programs? What kind of metrics can you attach to that statement?
Great. So we keep track of all our portfolio. We have around 1,800 startups in our portfolio right now. 55% are still alive. That's a huge number since the benchmark is only 10%. Out of that 55%, they are selling almost $1 billion. They managed to raise almost the same amount of money after Startup Chile. We have 42 exits, big exits, more than 10,000 employment positions created by our startups, and only 21% of those that are still alive managed to raise private funds, and that 21% is value in $1.4 billion. So we can say that we have like a unicorn in our portfolio.
That's awesome. Well, I definitely appreciate the time you took out of your day to chat with me. You are definitely creating a positive impact for Chile, for entrepreneurs, and I just want to thank you for that. Great work, and thanks so much for sharing your insight. And yeah, everyone, we're done Biz Chats for today. If you have any questions or want to chat with Sebastian, definitely follow Startup Chile on Instagram. And what's your website address, Sebastian?
www.startupchile.org.
Perfect. Well, thanks again, Sebastian. Thank you, everyone, and we'll stay in touch. All the best.
Thank you. Take care. Pleasure to meet you. Bye-bye.
Pleasure meeting you as well. Bye.